all across the continent. And when we look as land carers at what can be done to really focus on approaches that are practical for the smallest farmers, the poorest farmers on the continent, we look at such practices as the application of tree and fodder shrubs that can be planted at high densities in the farmlands to regenerate soil fertility for those farmers who just simply are not and cannot use fertilizers effectively. This is a field in Malawi where we have been working with hundreds of thousands of families to scale up the dense establishment of Gliricidia, Coleandra, Tephrosia, and many other nitrogen-fixing species of trees, and to manage them as shrubs. So they do not compete with the maize during the growing season, but they grow during the dry season to provide an enormous amount of nitrogen-rich biomass that can be incorporated into the soil when the maize crop is planted the next year. These systems have proven to be very dramatically productive. And here is data from long-term trials, both in Zambia and Malawi, showing that while fertility and maize yields continue to decline without fertilizer application, as is the case in most farms, by establishing these nitrogen-fixing trees and managing them as shrubs that are cut back to the ground level every year for the maize crop, the buildup of soil organic matter, proteinaceous fodder production, and the development of biomass for soil fertility brings the yield potential up to truly commercial levels, even in the absence of the use of fertilizers. Therefore, the Malawi National Agroforestry Food Security Program was established some years ago to bring this technology to all the farm families in the country. And this involves the village-level mobilization and mass propagation of seedlings and establishment of those seedlings to produce fodder and fertilizer shrub systems like we showed in the last slide. This program here has now evolved into a system where Malawi is linking it to their smallholder fertilizer subsidy program so that they can move from a short-term perspective of providing bags of inorganic fertilizer to farmers to a long-term perspective of having millions of fertilizer trees right in the crop fields to sustain and build soil fertility and climate change adaptation and mitigation for the long term. The Evergreen Agriculture Partnership, which I chair here in Nairobi on behalf of a whole range of development partners, governments, and academic and research institutions, has been embedding these kinds of programs with evergreen agriculture technologies into countries across the continent, particularly the subhumid and semi-arid areas where the incorporation of trees in dryland soils is most effective. This partnership is growing, and of course we see that there's more potential for integrating as partners our friends in the various institutions in South Africa as well. One of the breaking developments in Landcare in the Southern African region is the development of a grassroots-led movement for landscape restoration across the region. Landcare practitioners from the SADC countries met together in Limpopo last February, and they sat down with the South African government representatives, Department of Agriculture, the Cardesa Research Association, and others, and talked about discussions on launching a region-wide program for land restoration. They asked the African Landcare Network to be the coordinator of developing this program, mobilizing the Landcare programs across the Southern African countries, and building a program that could, in fact, engage partners at the grassroots all across